Hey, Evan.
Hi, this is Liz calling in from a phone.
Hi, Liz.
Hey Liz, it's Rico. Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, oh yeah, okay, good.
Ah,
Hi everyone, apologies. Just getting Jess set up, who is right here. But yeah, so I'm going to help Rico out a little bit because we sort of threw him into running this call without any warning or know-how. But yeah, basically, I'm going to do a quick setup and then I'll hand it off to you, Rico. But today we're going to be talking about website and sort of the purpose of our website. We have a few things that need to be amended in relation to that. Oh, hey, what's up, Kevin? And so today it's a bit of a facilitated discussion of what we think the Data Together website sort of should hold or host. Feel free to correct me if that's wrong, Rico.
That's right.
Yeah. So from there, I think I'll just pass it over to you and you can sort of get rock and rolling. But generally, it's a facilitated discussion. People jump in if you need to, if you want to say something, just sort of put your hands up and I'll keep a running stack today in chat. And then we'll sort of talk in turn, take turns working on this. Okay.
Great.
Can I ask a quick question? What's my mute key from phone so I can?
Ooh, I have no idea.
Maybe
Oh.
star.
I'm going to look it up on the internet, Liz.
Oh, thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
It's all good.
No problem. So should I get started or do you want to wait another minute or two?
I don't know. What time is it?
5:03.
Let's wait a minute or two.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless anybody wants to chime in. How's everybody's week? I don't know. Stuff.
Jess looks like she's in a very cool place right now.
Try and see like how many corners of the room we can get in one call.
Yeah. How's everybody's week?
Good. Good.
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. It's Monday. I'm quite exhausted. And yeah, it's nice to see you on the call, Mike. And congrats on the newish gig, the newish partial gig.
Yeah, thank you. It should be more in line with how I'd like to spend my time. So, and more opportunities to do things with Data Together, I hope.
We're very much looking forward to that.
Also, it means more time in an office, unfortunately, so I won't be able to work from home quite as much. It'll be a bit of a change, I think.
Yeah.
Time I became an adult at some point. So.
I somehow managed to force people to work in this glass box every now and then, every day, so it's not the worst, but yes. And Liz, I did manage to look up the key. It's *6 to mute and unmute. So I don't know if you figured that out. It's
What was that?
*6.
*6. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. And from there.
Cool. You want to get started? Cool. Okay, so first off, thanks for making some time to revisit this subject. It's something that we haven't really talked about since we all spoke a little bit more about it in October of last year. So to kind of do a very quick high-level recap of what I recall from the big takeaways of the last time we talked about what the website ought to look like is, at least preliminarily, to have it be very simple and high level and easy to navigate without too many deep pages with walls of text. And to communicate the mission, vision, and values of Data Together, and then pinning that up in the corner, discussion of what the words that fill those three boxes are. But it should be a very clear articulation of the mission, vision, and values. And then representing a point Matt Zumwalt made, it ought to give people an outlet to connect/endorse the principles of Data Together, or connect with us. So they ought to understand what we do, but then also like, what can you do for me, /what do you need from me, /how do I help you? So a way for them to register that was another important sort of thing. And then a fourth thing, so keeping it high level, communicating the mission, giving people a way to endorse, and then fourth, kind of an explanation of who we are. So I think like many organization websites, I think it's basically standard practice to have, even if there's no president of Data Together or anything, a basic overview of who the people are that are running this, so that any visitor to the website can get a sense for what this project looks like in the real world. So I thought, in some of the notes I put together on the Google running notes, we can either spend this time talking about, fleshing out those mission, vision, and values in the text of it, although I'm not sure that always is the easiest thing to do on a call in 23 minutes. But I don't know if anyone wanted to register other thoughts that they had recalled that I'd probably drifted over, main goals of the website that you didn't hear in what I had just said. So I'll stop hogging and then see if anybody has other thoughts about that. Oh, do I call on people? Oh, Kevin, is that Kevin? Hey, I'm Rico.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've met.
I think I've seen you on some calls, but we haven't met.
I've never called on you before, that's for sure.
Yeah. But I just had more of a question, is because I saw like the archivers.co site. Is that just going to be subsumed into Data Together? Because I see they share a lot of the same text. Is that I'm just curious what's happening there.
I can't answer that. Is anyone's hand raised?
Maybe Don, who's laughing hysterically in the corner right now.
Just to say that I think you like Kevin were on the same wavelength, because I had asked a question about that as well, being like, oh, we need to we had talked about this, let's kick that ball down the field some more. But I feel like some of that might just be an issue of redeploying it, because I think Brendan and others did a lot of work on that at the sprint. So, but then this is me kicking the ball to Brendan.
Brendan.
Thank you, Rico. Yeah, I actually think it's totally true. We should, the general approach was going to be to separate the actual content from archivers.co, and maybe any web app. We like the conversation of what we do with any web app functionality might be an open-ended question. I think that we can sort of cleave apart, but generally at bare minimum, updating that to at least match the content that's currently on datatogether.org. And I think I'd posit that we're all cool to just let it be subsumed into datatogether.org. Are we okay with that? I think it'd be nice to have just one place where this stuff lives instead of hey, welcome to archivers.co, and it's all named Data Together. It's really confusing. And so, yeah. Okay.
Actually, and I had one more question, just curious. So query, I know that's where you're saving data sets and stuff, is that like kind of gonna be like the backbone of what Data Together is gonna like use, or is it just like a tool that's I'm still still trying to figure out what Data Together is. I think we're all trying to figure it out together. But yeah, I wanted to understand how that fits into like the site as well, because I'm really interested in it. It seems really cool.
I guess I should take that. Is that okay? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I don't know if we've resolved that yet. I think I see query as like implementing Data Together principles. I don't see it as, by no means would I see it as the only choice for this kind of thing. But we are putting a ton of time into like hosting data on query, and so I think that's part of it. But yeah, I could see it being other things. I think there's some open-ended questions about the tools that we've built that are archivers.co, and like what do those feed into and how does that work? And then we also have this sort of like open-ended question of like, I actually had a wonderful meeting with Ilya Kramer today that sort of has brought back this world of like web archiving specifically, and like how does that fit into this conversation? Because query is quite focused on data sets, not on web pages. And so I think we have a bit of a hole there that needs to have some attention and some thought. But yeah, does that answer your question, Kevin? It's kind of an unanswered question that we kind of have to put to the community of like what query's position is in relation to Data Together, whether it's sort of a de facto implementation or how it works. But yeah, that's sort of, I think, where we're at right now, if any others want to clarify.
Go ahead, Don.
I'm so sorry for joining late, so I might maybe have missed a bit of the frame, but I don't know if this is a question or I think it is. Rico, I like definitely take your point about probably talking over the content of like how the mission, vision, values would slot in might be a bit difficult in this small area, in this small conversation. But I really liked the wireframes, and it was great to see them again. I had been like searching for them and couldn't find them. And I'm wondering how people feel about the way that you've categorized it, and if that is something that we want to just check in on. But maybe you already covered this, so I apologize if so. Because I got thinking about the like, what are our key resources? Like it was good, but then also as perhaps another thing that I would love to hear other people's thoughts on is kind of the way that Liz and Matt Zed were sort of talking about an engagement funnel, and I think you were talking in that direction too. So yeah, I'm kind of curious about just those categories, and just if there are more we should be including, or if something, and or if we have like one key engagement strategy that we see the website accomplishing, or if we want to sketch that out a bit more.
Yeah, that's basically yeah, that's the question. You didn't miss anything. That's basically the question that I posed to the group. And so yeah, great. Dawn just posted the link to the latest form of wireframes, which was something that I drew up just digging myself away, having heard a little bit of what people were talking about in terms of what might go on the website. So this was just spaghetti on the wall, wireframing of what some basic things might look like in terms of I don't know if everyone's looking at it now, but something up front that's unmistakable about what Data Together is, and then some sort of engagement, get involved thing sort of towards the bottom.
I did look at it. I have it open actually right now, and I think it does well for where we are at this point in the project, where it does say, this is sort of what we're doing so far. Here's spots for our mission, story, vision, key contributors, which you mentioned earlier. And also here's how to get more in touch and what you're actually interested in participating in, which I think is interesting, because there's not a lot of like, oh, give us your email address, but also tell us what you're interested in helping out with, which is pretty cool. So I think it's a good start in getting people to connect with the community, which I think is what we're trying to build. So I like it from that aspect of it.
Mike, did you have a question or something?
Earlier, I was going to ask about the question of data being archived through Data Together versus websites being archived. And I think I'm getting the sense that we're focusing mostly on data sets and community posting of data sets more than, let's say, whole website archiving. But I don't know that that's true. And that sounds like it's still an open question. So I just wanted to bring it up as a possibly open, still open question. Or if it's not open and somebody has an answer, then I'd love to hear it.
Brendan.
It's like, yeah, I think we should roundtable that because it's a big open question that should be explored. I don't want to give up on archiving websites personally. I want to do everything all the time, but yeah, it's. But I think it's pretty important.
In terms of the technical infrastructure or the storage infrastructure, it doesn't seem like you're too far off being able to do that, as long as you have some way to just funnel data, archives as data into the backend stuff, storing everything. But obviously that's kind of probably glossing over a lot of technical issues. And then there's also there's a bit of a different set of questions. If you have a data set, you often have something about the provenance and the data types and who the users are, et cetera. Whereas a whole website, it's like a different set of people, a different, I don't know, somehow it strikes me as a different thing. It's not like having a tarball of data, right? It's other things are going on. And sometimes there's data in that website. So it's like it's a superset of the simple data set. But
yeah, I actually, sorry, I'm totally talking a turn. My bad. But I would suggest, I really think we should dive into this like deep on a roundtable. And I'm going to definitely post an issue and maybe I'll CC you on it, Mike, and anybody else who's interested. And so we can get that chat rolling even before the roundtable. But yeah, I think we should try and stay focused on the website too.
This is Liz. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can't thumbs
Sorry,
up.
yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm much harder by phone. I think where Mike talks about like that more questions are open, I think that's exactly what maybe some of the transition from archivers to Data Together hasn't fully kind of made front and center. And by that I mean archivers was part of a response to the potential loss of government data, the kind of sense that like data was owned by everybody. And it's brought us into contact with really amazing technologists and technologies. But I think the umbrella of Data Together is potentially enormous. And Matt Zed had a great idea to even hold a whole conference to kind of explore all the issues that are, possibly contained in this. And I think the Data Together partnership vision is also potentially like very like enormous and large and so large that it may even have, some degree of maybe like productive or bearable conflict and different positions within the full set of potential partners. All this is to say that out of the giant set of questions that I think is on the table, we could potentially prioritize the immediate next set of questions. After archivers.co, like after the archiving effort and continuing the archiving effort, what are the perhaps like immediate next steps, the next largest circle we could expand to try to explore and perhaps build communities and technology solutions around? And I wonder what you guys think about that, and if you're willing to think about it in that way, what, the kind of the most immediate instead of the most broad might be.
Just, can I say, that sounds like a perfect roundtable discussion. So I'm kind of hearing like 2 roundtables, and I'm going to relentlessly chase people down to host roundtables about those things.
Great. This is a question I have, but who has the technical keys to the website? Who has like authorship rights? I don't know that. Oh, it's you? Okay. How, I don't know if this is jumping way ahead, but how do y'all feel about generally pushing open the engagement funnel, even if very little is known about how that would work? This is a risk, I suppose, but like opening an engagement funnel that says, let us know if you're interested in learning more about data together in general, and in doing so, have some kind of web form that allows people to sign up for whatever. That's just a giant trial balloon. Feel free to puncture through that, but that's like, I think the mission, vision, values seems like a very basic must do. That was like the engagement funnel thing was the most least discussed aspect of what came out of October. Evan.
I think part of the engagement funnel, we should also think about what are we doing in terms of onboarding. Like if we get them engaged, but they don't have anything to do except like show up to meetings or whatever, it's probably hard to keep them engaged. But I agree, I think the mission values is probably their priority, and then figuring out what we can use help with or how we can get people involved, maybe.
Kevin or Mike was first, or?
Oh, yeah, Mike can go first.
It was just a quick question. Your wireframes seem to already have a form for expressing interest. So were you already heading in the direction of that? I think that was maybe was this an orthogonal thing?
Yeah, that was a total like. I went totally off on my own and just drew that up as a potential for what that could look like. For instance, you might see like receiving updates from data together. I don't think that was ever promised to even offer like a newsletter type thing or contributing to the code base. So that was all just as an example of what could be reasons why people would engage with us. So that list of, what is it, I'm interested in, ought to be redesigned, but yeah, something I went a little bit rogue on by designing. Kevin.
About the engagement, I was looking at the learning repo real quickly. Is that like still worth going through? Like, that's like one thing that a person could be engaged with. And then how is it really related to like the query workflow, that learning thing? Because they seem kind of similar, but kind of different. Does anybody know?
Don's making a face.
I just don't know what the query workflow is.
Well,
I feel like I'm behind.
I'm talking about like, because I've seen like some of the demos that Brendan has done. And so like him, like, you know, when you install the front end and you're using it and you're able to put a data set on IPFS, and then the learning demo was kind of similar where you're putting a data set on IPFS. So I don't know if how they're related, if one's subsumed into the other, or are there separate tools or whatnot. It'd be nice to know, because then I would like to like go through one of them, like learn more.
Brent.
Yeah, I think that the relationship actually falls really closely along that roundtable that we should be having around web archiving versus data set archiving, because the big difference is query does data sets, the web archiving stuff, the archivers.co is oriented around just blob storage of any data. So the learning repo is intended to sort of just say, hey, you need to archive a website. And so this lets you sort of spin up tools to put archives on the distributed web, versus Query actually ingests and creates a data set and does a provenance trail for that data, which is slightly different.
So do both.
Absolutely. But I guess maybe we could recenter on that question of like, are people down with like collecting a form? And I liked how Evan, sort of, you had a question about, okay, we're going to drive people through a funnel. What can we commit to actually directing them to do? Mike, you had a thing, and then Don. Just Don.
Yeah, I agree with even about kind of understanding what we're onboarding people to, but I think that's different than saying like, hey, if you want to hear from us when there's things to hear about, say how you want to be involved. So I also feel like we might be imagining a scale that will not arrive. Like it might be a couple emails every month. So, I mean, I see there's a way that we could try and figure out how to work those in sync. I'm all for it. I mean, in terms of like adding some of this stuff to the website seems super critical. Even just connecting the website more explicitly to our GitHub rather than the word GitHub, making it clear where we have conversations, having our calendar up there, like all of that would be so wonderful. And I think, Rico, you kind of hit on a thing which I think is a piece that we might want to like talk about, which is like, so right now it's sort of a manual deployment process, and it seems like there might be a way to kind of hook into the way that the IPFS Protocol Labs crew are doing their automated one. That's fine. I'm wondering if we almost want to like kind of understand the resources we'll be able to put toward it, and that will help us understand how much we want to build this out at what scale at what time. Because it will take a little bit of attention, and I think you were talking about that, about like managing a mailing list or a newsletter. Like that as a capacity thing seems big. We're not going to have another coordinating call for like 6-7 weeks. I mean, I think some of that stuff we would want to discuss all together in a coordinating call. So that could be a target to like have an engagement strategy or something that like there's a proposal for that. So it's like, in 6 weeks have like hey, this is how we would operate the website. Doesn't have to be there. Like, I mean, it could be the one that happens, the in-person bigger meeting that would be in more like 2.5 months. Like just thinking about like concrete amounts of work over time. I would just anchor it to a meeting.
Brent.
Totally agreed. And I think it'd be really fun if we targeted inside of that 6-week cycle to have a goal of sort of broadening how updating the site works. As you were saying, Don, like if we could just get it to the point where, cool, at that meeting, we'll make some decisions. And then that's something that we can work on as a team. And sort of as that merges, it just sort of like naturally happens. Because then we can use the 6 weeks to make sure that works. And then it's a lot easier to sort of keep that site up to date because we can all manage it together. Which I think right now, just like having to be like, Brendan, make sure you publish the updates, like it's just like not a smart move. And actually Rob Brackett over on in Edgy has come up with a great system that they're using for web monitoring where there's CI tests. Like there's a button you can push that says publish. And so it'd be really cool if we can work with Victor over at Protocol to get it all teed up, and then which will actually set up the web publishing side, and then have it merge, and then somebody just goes in and clicks the button, which could be anybody from the Data Together org. And so so I'm proposing that we try and have a goal by the time we have that next meeting that we've improved our technical infrastructure to actually update the site and make it better from there. People go with that? That's great. And I'd be happy to sort of make sure that happens, particularly coordinating with Victor to sort of at Protocol, who has got this wonderful continuous integration set up, and see if that'll get worked out.
It's 5:29. Just being conscious and respectful of time. Any burning thoughts related to something we haven't hit on? Don? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I couldn't tell if there was another hand, and I felt like I've been talking too much. How did you make the wireframes? Is there an editable version that we want to like be working on collaboratively? If the answer is no, that's totally fine. But I imagine there could be, if there's interest, is there interest? I am one of those people who is interested. There might be a little bit of workshopping on some wireframes before we sort of sketch it out. I know there's some really great comments in that engagement funnel issue that got started a while ago, maybe in October.
Yeah, so that's a sketch file that I'm happy to send around to the group / I guess that's the best way to do it. Send it as an email file.
Google Drive? I don't know.
Google Drive yet.
Maybe?
Ray?
We could also throw it into Zeppelin, and you can annotate on Zeppelin. So I can do that if we want to set that up. So you can't make changes, but it's an easy way to share. And there's nice Sketch Zeppelin integration. If you haven't used it, Rico, we can connect offline.
Very cool.
That sounds awesome. That way people who don't have Sketch can actually contribute. Or we could consider switching to a tool that everyone can use. But I would suggest, like, there's a free demo of Sketch that is like not terrible, and it's a really good tool.
Also, I designed it in a way, because I'm a PowerPoint person mostly, so like everything that's in the Sketch you can obviously do with PowerPoint. It's all just rounded edge squares and all that stuff. But
or we could just go Google Slides because that's way easier.
No, if Ray and Nico are cool to, I was thinking a different track, but whoever's willing to do the work, I think kind of helps with some of those sets, chooses those tools.
Very cool. Sorry, Rico, go ahead.
no. It is resolved. So resolved. Cool. Well, that brings us to 5:31. I can cut you all loose and enjoy the more sunshine that you get now. Assuming your country does that. Any last thoughts?
Can I ping Jess for you to lead a future roundtable about this, just data sets versus archiving in the coming weeks? And then also Liz, potentially about the next immediate community to expand to?
Yeah.
What was the next immediate thing you said, Dawn?
I was trying to use your really evocative language, but I didn't remember how you said it. But kind of this idea
right.
of like thinking about the next immediate community rather than the most broad community of like who potentially could be involved in data together conversations.
And like next wider circle of application of the post archivers data, it transitioned to data together question.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, great. I'll ping you on the appropriate place.
I just want to point out that we managed to pound out a whole bunch of to-dos in half an hour. That was really, really good. I'm really proud of all of us. Especially if we get them done.
I think Brendan's trying to sign me up to facilitate more of these meetings, probably.
Very much so. Cool. Well, I think is that it? We good?
All right, gang.
Cool. Bye, guys.
Take it easy.
Awesome. Good seeing everybody.
Good to see you. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Well.
Nice work.